You think monsters are born that way? No. Most of them were once ordinary people. They trusted someone, they cared too much, they got hurt. They lost something they thought they'd never lose. And little by little, they stopped being the person they used to be. Not because they wanted to become cruel, because pain kept teaching them the same lesson: never be weak again. And that's where the real danger begins. Because pain doesn't always make you stronger. Sometimes it builds something inside you that you won't recognize until it's too late. You see, people don't become cold in one night. That's not how it happens. It happens quietly, one disappointment at a time, one betrayal, one failure, one rejection, one night where they needed someone, and nobody came. One morning where they looked at themselves and didn't like what they saw. And after enough of those moments, something changes. At first they stop trusting people. Then they stop expecting anything. And they stop caring. And eventually, they stop letting themselves feel. That's when you have to be careful, because there is a difference between becoming strong and becoming numb. A strong person can still feel pain. A numb person doesn't. A strong person says, that hurt, but I'll keep going. A numb person says, nothing matters anymore. Don't confuse the two. I've seen people call their bitterness strength. They say they don't need anyone. They say they don't care. They say they've learned their lesson. But sometimes they haven't learned a lesson. They've built a wall. And then they spend years standing behind it, calling the prison peace. That's the trick pain plays on you. It convinces you that if you stop caring, you can never be hurt again. Sounds clever. It isn't. You didn't become stronger, you just became harder to reach. And there are people walking around right now, smiling, working, talking, living ordinary lives, while carrying a version of themselves they buried years ago. Nobody knows, because they've become good at hiding it. They learned how to laugh while they're angry, how to say, I'm good, while they're falling apart, how to walk away before someone gets close enough to hurt them, how to destroy something good before it gets the chance to leave them. That's not always confidence. Sometimes that's fear with better clothing. And the saddest part, after doing it long enough, you forget why you started. You just become that person. You don't remember when you stopped trusting. You don't remember when you stopped trying. You don't remember when ambition became exhaustion. You don't remember when the dream became embarrassing. You just wake up one day and realize you've been surviving for so long. You forgot how to live. Now listen carefully. Pain is not your enemy, but worshiping your pain is. Some people build their entire identity around what happened to them. I was betrayed. I was rejected. I was abandoned. I was never appreciated. Fine. It happened. But if you keep repeating it, year after year, until every decision you make is controlled by it, then the person who hurt you doesn't even need to be around anymore. You're carrying them for free. Think about that. Someone can hurt you once, and you can spend 10 years continuing the damage yourself. That's the part nobody wants to admit. Sometimes the monster isn't the person who hurt you. Sometimes it's the version of yourself you created afterward. The version that refuses to trust. The version that refuses to try. The version that expects failure before beginning. The version that destroys opportunities because losing them later would hurt more. That's how pain becomes a builder, brick by brick, day by day. It builds habits. It builds beliefs. It builds reactions. It builds identity. Until one day, you aren't just carrying the pain is carrying you. And you call it personality. You say, that's just who I am. No, maybe that's who you became. There is a difference, and that difference matters, because if something was built, it can be rebuilt. If a habit was learned, it can be unlearned. If fear was trained into you, courage can be trained too. But you have to be willing to look at the thing you built and admit, I don't want to be this anymore. That's where most people stop, not because they can't change, because changing means losing the identity they've become comfortable with. Even a painful identity can become comfortable. That's the cruelest part. You can become attached to your own suffering, because at least you know it. At least you understand how it works. At least you don't have to risk becoming someone new. So you stay angry, you stay distant, you stay distracted, you stay exhausted, you stay exactly where life left you, and call it acceptance. No, acceptance isn't refusing to change. Acceptance is looking at what happened, and refusing to let it decide what happens next. You don't have to forget what broke you. You just have to stop letting it hold the pen, because your past can explain you without owning you. And maybe that's what becoming stronger actually means. Not becoming colder, not becoming cruel, not becoming some emotionless machine. It means becoming dangerous to the things that once controlled you. Your fear, your excuses, your addiction to comfort, your need for approval, your obsession with what happened yesterday. That's the monster you should build. Not one that destroys people. One that destroys the version of you that keeps destroying your future. But understand something. There is a point where pain stops being an explanation and becomes an excuse. And that line is dangerous, because in the beginning, you had no choice. Something happened to you. Someone hurt you. Something was taken from you. You didn't ask for it. You didn't deserve it. But eventually, you do have a choice about what you built from it. That's the part nobody wants to hear, because blaming the past feels easier than taking responsibility for the future. You can point backward forever. They did this. That ruined me. I was never given a chance. Maybe all of it is true, but tell me, what are you doing with the life you still have? That's the question. Not what happened. Not who left. Not who betrayed you. Not who underestimated you. Not who broke your trust. What are you building now? Because pain gives you raw material. Doesn't give you the finished product. You decide what gets built. Some people take rejection and build discipline. Others take rejection and build hatred. Some take failure and build patience. Others build excuses. Some take loneliness and learn to stand on their own. Others become desperate for anyone who will make them feel wanted. Same pain, different construction. That's why saying, pain made me this way, is only half the truth. Pain may have started the fire, but you kept feeding it. And I'm not saying that to blame you. I'm saying it because that's where your power is. If you had absolutely no control, then there would be nothing you could do. But you do. Maybe not over what happened. Maybe not over who hurt you. Maybe not over what you lost. But you have control over what happens next. And that is enough. More than enough. I've watched people spend years trying to become the person they were before they got hurt. They want their innocence back, their trust, their confidence, their excitement, their old ambition. But life doesn't always work backward. Sometimes you don't get the old version of yourself back. You build someone new, someone wiser, someone harder to manipulate, someone who knows what pain costs. Someone who doesn't give everyone access to their heart. Someone who understands that kindness without boundaries becomes self-destruction. Someone who understands that strength without compassion becomes cruelty. That's the difference. You don't need to kill every soft part of yourself. You need to stop letting the wrong things control it. Because I've seen what happens when people become obsessed with being strong. They become afraid of vulnerability. They stop apologizing. They stop admitting mistakes. They stop saying, "That hurt me." They stop saying, "I was wrong." They stop saying, "I need help." And they think that's strength. It isn't. That's armor. And armor has a price. It protects you, but it also makes it harder for anything good to reach you. So don't become the monster that pain wanted you to become. Become the monster that your excuses are afraid of. That's different. That monster wakes up when you don't feel like working. It doesn't care about your mood. It doesn't negotiate with the alarm. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need someone to believe in it. It simply does what it said it would do, again and again and again. That's terrifying. Not because it's violent, because it's consistent. A person who can control himself is dangerous in a world that depends on distraction. Think about it. Most people don't need someone to destroy their future. They do it themselves. One distraction at a time. One excuse at a time. 1 hour wasted at a time. One promise broken at a time. Nobody has to attack them. They are already doing the work. And that's why your biggest enemy may not be the person you blame. It may be the version of you that keeps making the same decision while expecting a different life. You cannot keep feeding the same habits and complain about the same results. At some point, you have to interrupt the pattern. Not tomorrow, not when you're motivated. Now. Because patterns don't disappear because you understand them. You can understand exactly why you procrastinate and still procrastinate. You can understand exactly why you self-sabotage and still do it. You can understand your trauma, your habits, your fears, your childhood, your insecurities, and still remain exactly where you are. Understanding is not transformation. Action is. And action is usually much less glamorous than people think. It's deleting the distraction, it's doing the boring work, it's saying no. It's leaving the room, it's going to sleep instead of scrolling until 3 a.m. It's training when nobody cares. It's studying when nobody's checking. It's creating something when nobody is watching. It's starting over without telling everybody you're starting over. That's how you rebuild, quietly. Painfully, without the soundtrack. And maybe nobody will notice for months. Good. Let them notice later. You don't need an audience for your transformation. You need evidence. Evidence that you're different. Evidence that your word means something. Evidence that the person who used to quit after 3 days can now continue for 30. Evidence that the person who used to run from discomfort can sit inside it. Evidence that the person who used to need approval can make a decision alone. That's how identity changes. Not because you repeat, "I'm disciplined," but because you repeatedly behave like someone who is. Eventually, your mind catches up. That's the part people miss. They think identity comes first. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes behavior comes first. You don't wait to feel like a disciplined person. You practice discipline until being disciplined feels normal. You don't wait to become confident. You do difficult things until confidence becomes the consequence. You don't wait to become fearless. You walk towards something while afraid until fear loses some of its authority. That's how the monster gets built, piece by piece. Not from anger, from repetition. Not from hatred. From standards, not from revenge, from self-respect, And perhaps the darkest thing you can do is become so committed to your future that your past can no longer negotiate with you. Your old habits call. You don't answer. Your old excuses return. You don't entertain them. The version of you that wants comfort starts screaming. You let it scream. And you keep moving. Because here's something you need to understand. Your old self will always have a convincing argument. It knows exactly what scares you. It knows exactly which memories hurt. It knows exactly how to make you feel guilty. It knows exactly how to make you doubt yourself. Because it is you. It has been living inside your head for years. So don't expect it to disappear politely. It will fight back. When you start changing, you will feel resistance. You will suddenly feel tired. You will suddenly remember why you shouldn't bother. You will suddenly find 10 other things you need to do. You will suddenly become interested in everything except the thing that matters. That's not always coincidence. That's the old pattern trying to survive. And if you don't recognize it, you'll mistake resistance for a sign that you're doing something wrong. No. Sometimes resistance is proof that you're finally doing something different. That's why growth feels uncomfortable. You're asking an old identity to survive without its old habits. Of course it fights. Let it. You don't have to destroy yourself. You just have to stop obeying every part of yourself. Because not every thought deserves an answer. Not every emotion deserves a decision. Not every fear deserves obedience. And not every version of you deserves to come with you into the future. Some parts need to stay behind. The desperate part, the lazy part, the approval-seeking part, the victim part, the part that keeps saying, "This is just who I am." Leave it, not with hatred, with finality. Because there comes a moment when you stop asking, "Why did I become this person?" and start asking, "What am I going to build now?" That's where the story changes. That's where pain stops being your identity and starts becoming your material. And maybe one day you'll look back at everything that tried to break you, and you won't thank it. You don't have to. You won't romanticize it. You won't pretend it was necessary. You'll simply look at what it built and decide whether you are proud of what you became. Because surviving something isn't enough. What did survival turn you into? That's the question. That's where I'd stop tonight, if I'd thought you were finished. But you're not. Not yet. And maybe that's the part that hurts the most. You didn't become this way because you wanted to. You became this way because somewhere along the road, being soft started costing you. So you hardened. Someone betrayed you. You stopped trusting. Someone rejected you. You stopped asking. You failed. You stopped trying. Someone made you feel worthless. You decided you'd never need anyone again. And for a while, it worked. You felt safer. Nothing could surprise you. Nothing could disappoint you. Because you stopped expecting anything. But there's a problem with building your life around never being hurt again. You also stop giving life the chance to reach you. You don't just block the bad. You block the good with it. After enough years, you forget what you were protecting. You just know that you're tired. Tired of people. Tired of trying. Tired of starting over. Tired of pretending you care. And you call that maturity. Sometimes, it's just exhaustion wearing the face of wisdom. I've seen people become experts at pretending they don't want what they desperately want. They say, "I don't care about success," but they do. "I don't need anyone," but they do. "I never wanted that life anyway." Maybe they did. Maybe they wanted it so badly that admitting they still want it became too painful. So they killed the desire instead of fighting for the dream. That's easier. If you convince yourself you don't want something, you never have to face the possibility that you might not get it. And that's how people protect themselves. They don't always quit because they stopped caring. Sometimes they pretend to stop caring because they couldn't handle caring anymore. Think about that. How many things have you called not important only because you were afraid to admit they mattered? How many dreams did you make fun of because you were afraid you'd never achieve them? How many times did you say, "It's whatever," when it wasn't? How many times did you laugh about something because admitting it hurt would have made you feel exposed? That's how the mask gets built, one little lie at a time, until eventually even you forget what's underneath it. And that's a dangerous place to live. Because now you're not only hiding from other people, you're hiding from yourself. And you can run from other people. You can move cities, change your clothes, change your friends, change your job, change your social media. You can delete the pictures, delete the messages, delete the old account, change everything people can see, but you can't move away from yourself. Eventually, the room gets quiet, the phone gets put down, the noise disappears, and there you are. No audience, no performance, no excuse. Just you, and the life you've been building. That's when the truth gets loud. You know the habit is killing your time. You know the addiction is making you weaker. You know the person you're becoming isn't the person you once promised yourself you'd become. You know. And that's why some people never allow themselves to be alone. Because silence doesn't lie. Distraction does. Entertainment does. People do. Your excuses do. But silence has a nasty habit of telling you exactly what you've been avoiding. So you keep the noise on. Another video. Another game. Another scroll. Another conversation. Another night awake for no reason. Anything. Anything to avoid sitting with yourself long enough to ask, what the hell am I doing with my life? That's not a comfortable question. But maybe you need it. Because sometimes pain isn't telling you that you're broken. Sometimes pain is telling you that the life you're living no longer fits you. And instead of listening, you numb it. You work more, scroll more, sleep more, eat more, drink more, talk more. Whatever keeps you from hearing that quiet voice. And then you wonder why nothing changes. How could it? You're constantly silencing the only part of you that's trying to tell you the truth. Listen. I'm telling you to hate yourself. Quite the opposite. If you hate yourself, you'll keep trying to escape yourself. I want you to become honest enough to look at yourself without flinching. Look at the ugly parts. The jealous parts, the lazy parts, the scared parts, the selfish parts, the bitter parts, the part that wants attention, the part that wants revenge, the part that wants to quit. Don't pretend those parts aren't there, but don't worship them either. Understand them. Then decide which parts get to stay, because maturity isn't becoming a person without darkness. It's learning how to control your darkness before it controls you. That's what I mean when I say the monster was built. You don't wake up one morning and become something terrible. You repeat something until it becomes automatic. You protect yourself until you become isolated. You avoid failure until you become afraid of effort. You chase approval until you don't know what you actually want. You suppress anger until everything becomes resentment. You suppress sadness until nothing feels meaningful. You suppress fear until fear starts making every decision for you. And then, one day, you look at yourself and say, why am I like this? Because you built it, piece by piece. And I know that's a hard thing to hear. But there's something beautiful hidden inside that truth. If you built it, you can rebuild. Not overnight. Not with a motivational speech. Not by pretending to be someone you're not. By changing the small things that built the old version in the first place. Stop feeding the habit. Stop rewarding the excuse. Stop running from the uncomfortable conversation. Stop making promises you have no intention of keeping. Stop saying you're going to change and start giving yourself evidence. One day, then another, then another. That's how you become someone different. Not by declaring it, by proving it. And understand this. The new version of you might disappoint some people. Good. You cannot build a new life while trying to keep every old relationship comfortable. Some people only understand the version of you that they benefited from. When you change, they may call you selfish. They may call you distant. They may say you've changed. They're right. You should have. You are supposed to change. A tree that never grows isn't loyal to its roots. It's dying. And you are not required to remain the same person just because someone became comfortable with you that way. You can outgrow people. You can outgrow habits. You can outgrow places. You can outgrow beliefs. You can even outgrow your own old dreams. That's not betrayal. That's life. But don't confuse growth with becoming heartless. You don't need to destroy everyone behind you. You just need to stop dragging the past into every room you enter. Because if you keep carrying every old wound, you'll eventually start bleeding on people who never cut you. That's how pain gets passed down. One wounded person creates another. One angry person teaches another person anger. One abandoned person learns to abandon. One betrayed person learns to betray before being betrayed. And the cycle continues. Until somebody becomes conscious enough to say, it ends with me. Maybe that's the strongest monster you can become. Not someone who hurts everyone. Someone who finally refuses to pass his pain forward. Someone who says, what happened to me was not my fault, but what I do with it is my responsibility. That's strength. Real strength. And not the fake kind where you never cry. Not the fake kind where you never need anyone. Not the fake kind where you pretend nothing affects you. Real strength is being affected and still choosing what kind of person you will be. That's difficult. Anyone can become bitter. Pain makes that easy. Anyone can become cold. The world gives you enough reasons. Anyone can stop caring. That's the easiest escape there is. But staying human after life gives you every reason not to. That's difficult. That's discipline. That's character. That's the fight. And maybe you've spent enough years building armor. Maybe it's time to build something underneath it. Something stronger than anger. Something stronger than fear. Something stronger than your past. Because one day, you'll realize the monster you were so afraid of becoming was never the person who felt pain. It was the person who let that pain decide everything. So don't let it. Use it. Learn from it. Build from it. But don't become its prisoner. Because pain can build you, or it can bury you. And the difference is what you choose to build next. And maybe, after everything I've said tonight, you'll still feel the pain. Good. Don't run from it. Because the goal was never to become someone who doesn't feel anything. The goal was to become someone who doesn't let every feeling become a command. You were hurt. You changed. You built walls. You became colder. Maybe you even became someone you don't recognize anymore. But don't make the mistake of thinking that version of you is permanent. A monster can be built. So can a man. And the next version of you is being built right now, not tomorrow. Not after you feel ready. Right now. Every excuse, every decision, every hour you waste, every difficult thing you choose to do, it's all construction. Brick by brick, you are building something. The only question is, what? Because one day, you'll look in the mirror and finally understand that you weren't destroyed by what happened to you. You were shaped by what you kept doing afterward. And that's the part nobody can save you from. Not your friends, not your family, not motivation, not me, you. So if you've become bitter, look at it. If you've become lazy, look at it. If you've become afraid, look at it. If you've become someone who keeps running from his own life, look at him. Don't hate him. Just stop feeding him. Let him starve. Let the old habits disappear without a funeral. Let the old excuses go unanswered. Let the old version of you realize he doesn't get to make every decision anymore. And don't announce it, don't post it, don't tell everybody you've changed. I've lived long enough to know the loudest transformations are usually the shortest. Real change is quiet. It happens when nobody's watching, when nobody's impressed, when nobody's coming to check whether you kept your promise. That's when it counts. So tonight, don't ask yourself, how do I become stronger? Ask something uglier. What part of me am I still protecting? Even though it's destroying me. Sit with that. Don't answer quickly. Let it bother you. Because if you are honest enough, you already know the answer. And tomorrow, when that old part of you asks for one more excuse, one more comfortable lie, one more day, you'll know what to do. I won't tell you to become a monster. You don't need another monster. You've already built one. Now decide what it's going to become. And that's all. No speech, no promise, no applause, just you, standing in front of the life you've been avoiding, with nobody left to blame.